Welcome to Global Guardians. I'm your host, Trent Underwood, and today I'm here with sound production mixer Ryan LaVergne. Great to have you, man.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a little while.
Yeah.
So you've been on several productions with us, starting all the way back in 2018 and most recently in Alaska, which is where this background is from. We're here at Ohio HD, which is where a lot of your time has been spent over the last couple of years. And they were kind enough to loan us the LED wall, which is projecting a clip that we shot in Katmai, Alaska, which we are going to talk a little bit about our time there. So why don't you give me a little bit of history on your background?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Northwest Ohio, small rural town of Kenton. I grew up around a lot of music in my household growing up. So, I was always playing guitar. A bunch of my friends were playing guitar, drums, we had a little band. So, I've always been fascinated with the science of sound, the physics of sound. And so, to get our ideas down that we were, writing, in fifth or sixth grade or whatever, I started, buying some equipment and microphones, and one thing led to another. And I just kind of fell in love with audio engineering unknowingly. I didn't know that was a career or anything, at that age. Yeah, so I, volunteer for, my local school system, running live sound for our, musicals and whatnot. And so in high school, actually, between junior and senior year of high school, I attended the recording workshop down in Chillicothe, Ohio, which is kind of a comprehensive audio production school that they kind of cram into, like a 4 or 5 week program. I think I was actually one of the youngest students to ever attend that. And so, you go down there, you live on campus, and you're just immersed in recording studios with other professionals, and that really kind of sealed the deal for me on, this is what I want to do with my career. So at that point, I was really focused on music production. That's, I wanted to spend my career in a windowless studio, locked in a studio with, recording consoles, the size of a, limousine. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I went to school for. Went down to Ohio University, got a degree in audio production. Throughout all of my studies, really focused on music production. That is what I wanted to do. And then started working on some student films. Kind of fell in love with, recording dialogue and working with the camera department and just kind of the collaboration on film sets. One thing led to another. Graduated from OU. I was still kind of down the path of wanting to work in a studio somewhere. But I had met David Jeffries at OU, who works here at OHD Studios. And he had been working here for probably 2 years, I think, by the time that I graduated at OU. We kind of reconnected, and 2-3 weeks after graduating from college, I kind of got hired on semi-part-time here at the time it was Ohio HD. Yeah. Now it's OHD Studios. And at the time I was the third employee, and it's grown significantly, and they have all these amazing technologies for the Columbus production market to utilize. And so I've been doing this professionally since 2013.
So let's rewind back to 2018 when you and I met. We had a big production coming up for Brave Wilderness in December of 2018, and we needed a sound guy, and Ohio HD, I had been working with them, reached out, and they sent your contact info. So tell me a little bit about what it was like when you got the call to be like, hey, Brave Wilderness wants a sound guy to go to Costa Rica.
Yeah, it was actually really interesting. I was on my way back from my honeymoon, actually, when I got the call or the email about wanting, do you want to go to Costa Rica? And I was like, yeah, like
that
absolutely.
Just came back. Yeah, let's go.
Say no more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had never been to a rainforest climate before. whether it's for vacation or let alone working, so the environment itself was going to be very new to me, very hot, very humid. I've been out, I don't want to call myself an outdoorsman, but I enjoy hiking. I enjoy the outdoors, and so I spent much of my life in the outdoors. And so this is something that was very, very exciting to me. I'm always looking for new experiences, learn new things. I love to travel, so it's always great when you can, travel and get to, do your passion at the same time. So.
Right. I mean, the crazy thing too is I actually hadn't been in this environment either.
Yeah.
I had been to Japan. That was the first international trip. I had started in the summer of 2018, went to Japan and a couple other United States trips. And so for me, it was like we were both going to learn at the same time.
Yeah.
When we went to packing, I'm relying on Mario, who had several years with Brave Wilderness, to be like, okay, so like, what am I going to expect in Costa Rica, as far as like what kind of clothes we need, what kind of boots do we need, what is the camera package that we should go with to keep it lean. And I think we both very quickly, as soon as we touched down on Brian's property and we did that initial walk down, you got to get the muck boots on because the mud is super deep. We discovered what we were in for in Costa Rica. I remember you had that massive like army bag, and I remember what was the struggles you were having with that?
Yeah, so on a normal production, I have somewhat access to a vehicle with all of my gear in it. It might be a mile away, it might be parked right outside, but if I need to, more often than not, I can get to my vehicle or get to my cart where I have additional batteries, etc. For Costa Rica and when you're filming out in nature, everything that you need has to be with you all the time. There's no walking back to the truck to get more batteries or to get another cable. You have it all with you. You have to be prepared for rain. You have to be prepared for if something breaks. We're in a hot, humid climate in Costa Rica. Moisture and electronics don't go well together.
They do not.
And when you're in a place, like Costa Rica, you spent the time and the money and the resources to get there. Not having a backup microphone, for example, if it gets wet, coyote jumps in a body of water of some sort to catch a snake or something. Those are not the things that are going through his mind. The protection of the microphone. He has a job to do. I have a job to do. Part of my job is having redundancy and backups for things. So it was a struggle to prepare for. I had never done something like this before. So not only packing for the trip itself, but packing for the day, the journey of each day was also tricky. Traditionally on productions like this where you're moving a lot, run and gun, I basically wear my audio equipment in a bag that kind of sits on a harness that's on my shoulder. So it's all right in front of me. Wherever I go, it goes with me. To fit all of these things into a small compact package, try to keep it as lightweight as you can, is a challenge for sure. And so what I ended up doing was just buying, I picked up a large military rucksack basically that was just I just needed something that just had a large volume with shoulder straps. I need to shove a bunch of gear in here. I'll figure it out from there. I got this giant army backpack that I was able to kind of get all of my things in for the day into. That necessarily wasn't how we were shooting. It was just kind of transport the gear from point A to point B. I kind of got a nice little system with it. I had some corrugated plastic sheets that I cut out squares of, so I had layers of gear. The stuff that I didn't need probably would be at the very bottom. The stuff that I need all the time would be at the top. So it was a very well refined a pack. But there was a lot a lot of anxiety, to be honest with you, going into that one. You know, it was my first production with Brave Wilderness. You know, wanted to make a nice impression. You know, I hate being waited on. You know, that's definitely a kind of a running joke in the production industry, is, you know, always waiting on sound. And I try to, you know, take pride in never needing to be waited on.
Yep. Well, and an important thing that everyone should know that's not in production is that sound is just as important as every other aspect, if not more important. Because if you've ever watched a video and you've seen great visuals and then the sound is terrible, it pulls you right out of it.
Yep.
So
yeah, sound is one of those things, if you notice it, it's been done wrong.
Yes, exactly.
So,
I mean, what the struggles that you went through and the things that you learned are it's just always changing with every wildlife shoot. We've been on countless shoots where we're sitting there thinking, okay, should we take this? Should we take that? And we've been doing this for years. But every shoot in wildlife might need something different. We've done jaguars where we need a crazy gimbal and we need extra cables because you can't, like you said, get a pterodactyl or a Movi cable in the middle of the Pantanal. So you've got to come.
You don't want to let that one piece of gear break the entire production.
No.
So.
And it's very stressful sometimes because you're like, well, I need one extra cable because what if this one breaks? But then what if the backup breaks and maybe I should have another? So then you start stuffing things in every little nook and cranny of bags that you've got.
It adds up quickly.
Yeah. So as that was an Animal Planet shoot, we wrapped that up. And then I think we did a handful of shoots over the next couple of years. But then you eventually went freelance, right?
Yes. In May of 2022, I decided to go freelance, and you know, I've always had an interest in owning a business or running a business. From a young age, I was always, you know, mowing lawns, shoveling. You know, I was always doing something to get just a little side gig to earn money from a very young age. And so I've always wanted to own my own business. And so freelancing was kind of a way to kind of bridge the gap between being a technician and also being a business owner. So,
well, and the cool thing about that is if there are productions like the one you went on with us, where you need to go to the other side of the world, and you're not, you know, kind of committed to something else, you can do that. Which
Absolutely.
Ultimately led to Alaska, which here behind us is Katmai, where we spent some time filming brown bears for the Bear Kid documentary with grizzly bear expert Casey Anderson, which is a Global Guardians episode as well. And I would say, I can't speak for you, but this was the first time in, 20 years I'd gone camping. And the camping that I had done before was down in Hocking Hills. We're here in Ohio, which Hocking Hills is as bougie of a camping experience outdoors in a remote area as you can get.
Sure, yeah.
There's Walmart probably maybe 30 minutes down the road if you really need something.
There's a road.
There's a road, yeah, exactly. But Katmai was not that. It was, we had many pre-production meetings leading up to this on what kind of gear do we need. Weight was a big concern because we were in small seaplanes and we're in boats, and everything had a very strict weight limit with like no exception. So I would say for us, that was a massive challenge into what can we bring and how can we get it out to this remote place.
Right.
So I'll let you explain a little bit about where we were and the remoteness of it and what we were doing. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes taking care of your mental health can feel like a big step, but your mind matters just as much as your body. And whether you're feeling overwhelmed, stuck in a rut, or just looking for some extra support, talking to a therapist can really help. Therapy doesn't have to feel out of reach. Traditional in-person therapy can run you between $100 and $250 per session, but BetterHelp offers online therapy at a flat weekly rate, saving you time and money. In fact, it can cost up to 50% less than in-person sessions. And even if you've never tried therapy before, it can be a great way to learn positive coping strategies, set healthy boundaries, and just become more in tune with who you are. You don't need to have gone through something major. Sometimes it's just about having someone to talk to. BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, with over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 5 million people served worldwide. It's flexible, convenient, and you can switch therapists anytime if you want to try a different fit. Your well-being is worth it. Visit BetterHelp.com/GlobalGuardians to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/GlobalGuardians.
Yeah, so Katmai National Park is directly west of Kodiak Island, Alaska. And it's probably not the most remote place I'll ever be in my life, but in terms of amount of people concentrated in the area, it is certainly, I was the most disconnected from, I guess, human life, probably, that I'll ever be. Yeah, so this is it. I mean, this is where we lived for 10 days, a week, 10 days.
Yeah, a little over, a week.
It all kind of blended together after like day 2. But yeah, we were in the middle of the wilderness. You know, any amount of help, whether it be by boat or plane or helicopter, you know, maybe a day away, depending on the situation. So yeah, it definitely, the environment itself has its own challenges. But overcoming those, I think, was, you know, one of the funnest parts of all of it.
Yeah, I mean, and something that we are not normally dealing with on a production is cooking our own food, figuring out how we're gonna fall asleep in a tent. You know, we're coming back to an Airbnb or a hotel. And for me and Mario, this was actually the first time where in our entire like wildlife cinematography career, we were properly sleeping out in a tent with all of our gear. And I mean, I remember that like when we were part of the A team, like the production crew that came in early. And I remember as soon as we got there and the boat drove away and it just kind of sank in, like it's not coming back for a while.
Watching Tyler drive, you know, right away in the boat, we're like, here we are.
Yep. And you know, we have, you know, it was 20, maybe 30 some bags that we're pulling off the boat, all the gear. And we can't just chill or set up cameras. We got to set up camp first.
Yeah, and there was potential rain coming as well.
Yeah, potential rain. So. And you got the itch because you can see the bears off in the distance.
Out there.
They were walking around in the grasses here. And so I just remember kind of like letting everything sink in. It was like, okay, we got to get the tent set up. I'm hungry, but we can't eat until we get the tent set up. We got to get the electric fence around because the bears do come up to the tents and the fences while you're sleeping. So
lots of new smells with our crew coming in.
Exactly. And like you said, we weren't the only ones there. I mean, there were several other camps, but for the audience, Katmai you can only get there by boat or plane. This is not a drivable, or at least Hallow Bay where we were. And when you get dropped off, you're there. Like you were there until your plane comes back or till your boat comes back, or an emergency situation. It's Coast Guard coming. So it's a little bit difficult to kind of wake up in your sleeping bag and roll over, prep your camera over like a bunch of pelicans that are makeshift as a table, and then go heat up your freeze-dried food and then get back out here into the fields to start looking for bears.
And on top of that, 20 hours of daylight.
Yes,
so
which totally warps
our sleep schedule, you know, mixed with the 20 hours of daylight. It was weird. Yeah. You know, like it was really weird.
Yeah. Well, and production, a lot of people don't understand the rigorous nature of production, whether that's in a studio or whether that's out in the field. Hours are long, you're tired, and if there is a moment that can't be captured again, you have to sit and you got to wait. And that is very true with wildlife.
Yes.
You could be filming a bear for 3 hours thinking that it's going to do something, and then it just continues on doing what it's doing. But the second you pack the camera up and walk away, boom, it does something.
Yep.
This shot that we had here, as soon as we pulled this camera away, a bear and 2 cubs walked by.
Yep, this rolled for an hour and a half. But but
Yeah,
at least we got this beautiful background out of it. So
exactly. So the struggles of filming wildlife are an ongoing battle. Like this trip finished up, and we have more trips coming up that are big international ones where we're going to have to figure out what do we need to bring. Like we're always packing for the lowest common denominator, as I say, of flights to make sure that we're going to make it on every single one, and we're not going to have any issues. But what is interesting about Katmai is when we were going out there, I expected it to be more remote. Like, we're talking to Casey, he's like, this is the 4-hour boat ride, it's a hour plane ride in the middle of nowhere, just bears. And even he was surprised when we kind of crested that hill and we saw 3 or 4 other camps. We thought we were going to be the only ones. But this is where I want to talk about noise pollution. So animals are affected by noise. They're affected by human encroachment in all kinds of different areas, as we have seen all over the world, the whole point of conservation. And in Katmai, it wasn't as remote as we thought it was, hearing a lot of different sounds. So maybe talk a little bit about your experience with noise pollution and your struggle with maybe capturing some natural sounds in an environment that should be more natural but isn't, and maybe comparing that to Costa Rica, where we also experienced that.
Yeah, so I think probably the most challenging factor for a production sound mixer is environmental, whether you're indoors or outdoors. If you're indoors, what's the size of the room you're in? What's the shape of the room? Are the walls and the floor reflective surfaces, or are you, in a room that has a bunch of absorptive material and furniture? Is there a refrigerator that's going to kick on in the middle of your shot? If you're outdoor, are you near an airport? Are you over the flight path? Are you next to a highway? Are you in a suburban neighborhood in May, where there's going to be mowers and leaf blowers and trimmers? You might set up your beautiful shot, and all of a sudden, the city decides to come down and pave the street outside where you're shooting that day. These are all things that are always going on in the back of my mind. The first thing, whether I get a call sheet or I get to location, is try to figure out, where am I? Where are we shooting? What are the challenges going to be? So yeah, I thought, I'd be in one of the quietest locations of my career here in Alaska, out in the middle of nowhere. I thought it was going to be peaceful and tranquil. But I did encounter a couple noise issues, one being the wind. We experienced nearly all 4 seasons, in the short time that we were here. It was cold, it was hot, it was sunny, it was rainy, it was windy. And so to a degree, I can combat the wind with different types of wind protection that I put on the microphones, different furs, different covers. Another issue that I had was float planes.
Every day, always.
Every day. We'd hear a plane creeping in, it's tourists, they're circling over it. They're not in and out. Typically, from shooting, here in Columbus, and a plane goes over, you pause for 20, 30 seconds, and then you continue. They're just flying around in circles up there, looking at the beautiful landscape and the bears. We're down there just, waiting for them to pass.
There's like a mom and cubs, and it's like, it's like, okay, great.
So that is not something that I was expecting. But other than that, it was a fairly quiet location. Not a whole lot of anything going on out there.
Yeah, so. and the good thing is the planes came in waves. Like it was kind of like, we know from 10 to 12 is going to be everyone's coming in to land, and they were landing like right there by our camp and on the beach. I think there's no way to escape unnatural sound nowadays. I mean, when I was living in Vegas and I went all the way out to Death Valley a lot, Valley of Fire, out to the middle of the desert to do star photography, it was like no matter where I went, there's something. You know, there's a jet, there's this. So like, I don't know, to my knowledge, I don't know if there's a place left on Earth where it's truly 100% silent, because jets are flying over all the time, all over the world. So,
in Costa Rica, you know, the monkeys.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, while natural, you know, in their habitat, like we can't have howling monkeys over top of your interviews.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it makes sense to hear them there, but they're so loud. It's distracting. So
well, and
there's always something.
Always something. And you know, the big problem we encountered in Costa Rica on Brian's property, and often anywhere in Costa Rica, is the trucks.
Oh yeah.
Because they have that Jake brake, and you know, we're at Brian's and we hear
oh yeah,
just cutting
just
through the
echoes
jungle.
over the, you know, across the mountains, and
Yeah.
it cuts right through.
Yeah, I mean, this is another sound guy that we had worked with, Betley. He'd always be complaining about the struggles of that as well, you know, like especially when he's trying to get stereo sound, because he would like to go take his stereo rig out and capture that nice stereo sound, but there's always something. Trying to get 30 to 60 seconds of something good is
it's hard.
It's hard. Mm-hmm. So I guess now I want to lead into the challenges that you've overcome by filming with us the several shoots in Alaska, Costa Rica, and some of the stuff we've done here with you at Ohio HD. Is there anything that you've taken away from those shoots that you've applied into your current workflow of studio work or field work that might not be super remote, but still field work? Is there anything that you've taken away from that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'd say that this particular trip to Alaska was probably one of the most physically and mentally challenging things I'll probably ever do. You know, we were walking, you know,
like 28,000 steps.
Yeah,
like
it was insane. You know, with gear, you know, in full waders, you know, crossing streams, you know, waist deep mud. You know, it was not easy physically or mentally, and so that was one thing I really took away from this trip and other, you know, challenging projects, is just knowing that you can do it. You know, pushing through the not necessarily the pain, but the fatigue. Occasionally self-doubt, you know, like, am I up to this? You know, like, I remember halfway through this trip, you know, we'd wake up in the morning and just be like, how are we going to do this again?
Again,
and again and again and again. And every day we'd wake up and, you know, we'd strap up and we'd get to it. And once you get out there, just having a blast. But yeah, you know, just kind of overcoming, I don't want to say the doubt, but just pushing through, is definitely one thing that I take away from these trips. But I think the more challenging projects are the most rewarding ones. You know, the ones you really have to work for and earn. You know, I work with a lot of high-profile talent, athletes, celebrities, but nothing beats, you know, coming out and doing something like this. This is, you know, this was almost more of a nerve-wracking project for me than, you know, working with, you know, the president, or, you know, miking up LeBron, or, you know, who have you.
Well, and there's very real threat out there. I mean,
we haven't talked about the Bears at all. You know, it's like,
I mean, when you are filming in a studio, like, I mean, what's a light's going to fall, maybe something like that. I mean, we're actively in the middle of a bear field with bears who are grazing, who are fighting, who are mating, walking right in front of us. So it's very, very important that we're not only just filming and paying attention and recording to the picture, but we're also paying attention to our surroundings.
Sure.
You know, and it's the same thing in Costa Rica. We have fertilants, we have eyelash vipers, we have bushmasters. There's all kinds of snakes that tag you, and it's a bad day. I mean, like, not many people have the privilege like us to say that they are filming amongst animals that could end their life, you know, just while you're walking around the jungle, which is a cool thing to have experienced.
Absolutely. You know, I don't know originally when I was contacted for Costa Rica, the small detail that we were looking for, one of the deadliest snakes in the region.
The fertilants.
The fertilants. Like that's what we were going for.
Yep.
And so once I realized that, I was like, oh, that adds a new level of both interest and anxiety to to the project. But yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah. I mean, there's Mario and I were just recently in Costa Rica capturing crocodiles, and there were some people the week before that trip asking me like, when's your next trip? I'm like, I'm going to catch crocodiles on Monday.
No big deal.
And they're like, well, that's crazy. I would never do something like that. And they're like, are you nervous? I'm like, not really. I mean, I was like, you kind of lock in. We've been around this type of danger before. There was adrenaline for sure. There is high adrenaline, and that's what we look forward to. But we're working with professionals. We're working with skilled individuals to make sure that we aren't getting injured or in harm's way. And we were working with Casey out here in Alaska, who has been doing this for probably over 20 years, taking people here. He's filmed several documentaries here. And there was never any point that I felt concerned. I mean, we all had bear spray, but it is pretty cool to be, there was that one moment where we're crossing that little river or that stream, and squirrely bear is coming behind us. And I have it all on the 360 camera from it mounted to my FX6. And I was like, hey, Casey, this squirrely bear is coming around. And we're all like lined up. Everyone's got, their finger on the trigger of the bear spray, and out of nowhere, Casey comes running across the water and chases after the bear.
I think it had particular interest in coyote actually, I think Casey was already partway across the stream and turned around and realized what was happening, and it was amazing seeing him run out of the stream, running straight at this bear that we know, we had been experiencing for a couple of days, just acting squirrely, hence the name Squirrely Bear, and just seeing Casey dash out of that stream and run at this bear to kind of chase it off. That was cool to see.
I mean, that's what makes the job special, like that you kind of have to encounter those adrenaline.
Yeah, and those are experiences that you'll never forget, for sure.
And out of your wildlife experiences, because I know you've traveled on your own to a couple different places, what has been your most, favorite animal or favorite moment that you've encountered? And it could be anywhere in the world. It might not even be on anything we've done, but what is that?
I'd say hands down Alaska.
Alaska? Yeah, it's a pretty tough one to beat.
That's a tough one to beat. Not only, if anyone is lucky enough to see a bear in the wild, it's usually from, hundreds of meters away, looking through binoculars maybe. They were walking past our camp here. Like, very few people in the world will get to experience these animals like we were able to, and just having that opportunity was just so cool. So I think hands down, Katmai is number one for me for animal encounters and places I've been.
It's up there for me as well. I mean, it was a pretty epic trip and epic time with good people, and we'll keep those memories forever.
Absolutely,
for sure. So you've done a lot of diverse work over the last couple of years in your entire career. So what does the future look like for Ryan LaVergne Sound? Is it continuing what you're doing now, or doing more of this, or where do you want to go with your career?
Yeah, I think the favorite part of this career for me is the diversity of it. It's never mundane, it's never boring. I kind of have a backstage pass to the world, if you will.
I like that.
I get to experience places and people and things that the general public don't necessarily have access to. I might be in Alaska working with the biggest brown bears in the world, and then the next week I might be working with the President of the United States. The week after I might be in the operating room recording dialogue of doctors in an open heart surgery. Every shoot is different. Every shoot is a new experience. Every project brings its own unique challenges that I enjoy overcoming and learning from. But yeah, I just kind of take it one day at a time. And they always say, your favorite project is the next one. So.
And in our world, there's always going to be something. There's always going to be a project, and at least when you've started to travel, it doesn't matter whether it's here or Italy or Greece or something. Once you start traveling, it becomes a drug.
Oh, absolutely.
Every time I've come back from a trip, I'm like, okay, I want to chill for a week, want to get my bearings, hang out with everybody, and then I'm like, I need to go to a beach, I need to go to Costa Rica, I need to go to Thailand, I need to go somewhere, and that is something that's very hard to give up. Like we're saying, like you don't want to work a 9 to 5, you don't want to sit at a desk because there's a high in that unknown.
Absolutely.
It's like an unknown place. It's unknown people. Even when we go back to some of those places, like I've been to Costa Rica several times. I've been to Arizona, Florida. You go to a bunch of different places multiple times. There's always something new that you experience
of course.
In that area. So, that's cool. I mean, there's a lot of people that are going to have that similar mindset that are in the creative field that want to just be free and be able to do what they want when they want. Now, that can also translate into tough times back at home, right? So maybe talk a little bit about when you're gone on a trip that is 2 weeks, 3 weeks, like what are you missing? Like, what are you missing at home?
Yeah, first and foremost, I miss my wife. Shout out Allie. She holds the fort down. When I'm gone. We have two dogs and 2 cats, so our household is very busy with things running around. But yeah, it's definitely hard for Allie. When I'm gone for those extended periods of time. It's pretty frequent that I'll spend 1 or 2 nights in a hotel or and that's not too bad, but when you're gone for weeks, it gets hard for both myself and family at home, and of course the challenge of communication. We were fortunate enough to have the Starlink on the Alaskan trip, because otherwise we would have had to rely on satellite phone to maybe check in at home once a day, just letting them know, still alive.
Right.
We were fortunate enough to be able to make a phone call or a quick, FaceTime or something to say hi. But yeah, it's hard to be away from home for that amount of time.
Yeah, and neither of us, we both have wives, but neither of us have kids. And I can only imagine how much harder it would be if we had kids. Because we saw Casey and Catmy, FaceTiming as kids. And we just got hits of Starlink because we didn't have much sun, so we couldn't charge the batteries.
Yes.
But when you see that from the outside, it's like, eventually I want to be to that point as well with kids, and what does that look like for the future of travel? It's like, I'm going to start missing my kids. I mean, I miss the dog. It's like, I want to see the dog on FaceTime. You're like, I want to get home and see him. So, and the wife, right?
Yeah, and you miss your bed. You miss all the. On one hand, you miss all of the things that you rely on. Yeah. In the luxuries of life, but on the other hand, it was kind of fun, just living off of what you can fit in a backpack in the middle of nowhere. But yeah.
Well, and our biggest struggle is food. Oh yeah. Remember, we're like, we're gonna like eat the freeze dried food, and then when we get back, we're gonna keep it together, blah blah. But no, as soon as we hit Kodiak, it was McDonald's. Oh yeah. It was cookies. It was pizza rolls. It was like anything we can eat, because we've been eating freeze dried food for over a week. And you get burned out on that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean that's cool to this is something that all of us that travel experience is. the high of being on a trip and then coming home, coming down from that and wanting to go back out again.
Oh yeah. And being able to share these experiences with your loved ones at home.
Yeah. And oftentimes, like, I want to bring my family out to Katmai. Like,
yeah.
I was telling everybody, I'm like, can you get a week off? Can you do this? Like, let's schedule a trip and get out there, and you guys will be blown away.
Yeah,
like,
I don't think we had left
away.
Alaska yet, and we were already trying to figure out, like, how do we get back here?
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, well, we're gonna work something out. We're gonna get back there. So you are often recording the message and the sounds of others, and I want you to kind of, in your own words, say what you would tell other people about being in nature, like the trips that you've been on, and the importance of conserving it, because now that you've seen some of this, the land and the animals and the struggle that is happening, what is that message you would have now that you've been part of it?
Yeah, something we haven't talked about at all is that my dad was a wildlife biologist. He worked for the Ohio Department of Natural Resources for 30 years. And so I grew up with, wildlife and conservation around me all the time. He'd be maybe bringing home an injured animal for my brother and I to get to see before, it goes off to rehabilitation, or, pulling us out of school for a day, in the fourth grade or whatever, to go, ban bald eagles or something. So, my whole life I've been around wildlife and conservation, and it's really an honor for me to be able to kind of bridge my career with that as well, and just kind of combine them, and also an honor to be able to go on these projects with Brave Wilderness and help you guys tell the story of conservation.
Yeah, man. I mean, I had no idea actually about your dad. That's super cool. I mean, I knew that you were always fascinated with wildlife because you were always on these trips asking me about like what camera and stuff, and you're capturing photos of the eagles and all the different insects just as much as we want to capture all that. So that's cool, man. That's a really interesting background that I had no idea. And there's more trips to come. Like we have more stuff to come, and there's some places that like we've been already that like I want you to go to. Like you gotta go to check out, like Jaguars and Pontanal.
Oh yeah,
like awesome. That was epic. I mean, well, thanks for being on the podcast, man. I'm looking forward to seeing where you go with the rest of your career and your future. And we certainly have some more trips coming up that will warrant a sound guy, and you will be the first that we call.
Awesome, appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Cool. Well, if you're looking to hire a sound guy, where can we find you, Ryan?
Yeah, so you can find me on the usual socials, as well as my website, ryanlaverne.com.
We will put all of the links to those in the description below. Thank you very much to listening and watching the Global Guardians podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date on all of our latest episodes. I don't have my watch on, but I think it is about lunchtime, and I do have a surprise behind the cameras back there.
Oh, let's go. It's always lunchtime for us.
I've got some freeze-dried food.
Oh, let's go.
Let's go. Some chorizo hash.
Elms?
Yes.
Let's go.
Let's eat.